I'm Dr. Khurrum Shaukat Yusafzai in the Pakhtunkhwa interesting channel about the amazing Pakhtunkhwa. Today I'm going to tell you about a famous tomb in Peshawar which is obliterated from the history, and not many people in Indian subcontinent know about its existence. But it belongs to a very important person who was Chief of Army Staff of the Punjabi Army belonging to Ranjit Singh. Ranjit Singh had the Chief of Army Staff. His name was Hari Singh Nalwa. Hari Singh Nalwa, as his name Hari is the name. His name was actually put on the city of Haripur, which is known by his name, because when the Sikhs they rebelled against the Mughals and they formed their own small empire or a province known as Punjab, which was on the eastern tributaries of the Indus River. Because the eastern tributaries are 5 in number, and in Persian it is called Punjab, the land of 5 rivers, which is east to the Pakhtunkhwa. Pakhtunkhwa is west to the Punjab province. So at that time, both Punjab province and Pakhtunkhwa and all the area of Sindh, Punjab, Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan used to be in the Afghania province. Afghania province was one of the 12 provinces in 1857 under the Mughal Empire. The Mughal Empire ruled all over India as a joint rulers with the Pashtuns, known as the Yusafzai / Ahmadzai Abdalis. So Ahmad Shah Abdali, which ruled on India from 1757 to 1857 for 100 years together with the Mughal Empire. So the rule, which started from the War of Panipat in 1757 right until 1857, was a joint rule. So when the British took over in 1857, they took over the Mughal Empire as well as the Pashtun Ahmadzai Yusafzai Empire of Ahmad Shah Abdali, which stretched from Delhi to Afghanistan, and the Mughal Empire was stretching from Delhi to the Arabian Sea. So during that time, before 1857, from 1801 to 1837, there was a rebellion. That rebellion was supported by the British Empire, and it was paid and trained by the East India Company. So that empire belonged to Ranjit Singh. Ranjit Singh was a rebel who belonged to the area around Gujranwala because he belonged to the clans of Gujars. And his Chief of Army Staff was Hari Singh Nalwa. So after doing an agreement with the British called the Amritsar Agreement, they actually started to come towards Afghanistan. And they started from Lahore, and they started to come towards Rawalpindi and then towards Peshawar. So at that time, Rawalpindi, Peshawar was part of Afghanistan as Afghania province. So in Peshawar, the Sikhs, they fought a lot of wars with the Pashtun, which are known as the Sikh Pashtun Wars, that started from 1801 and ended in 1837, ending the empire of Ranjit Singh. So just a year before that, 1836 or 1837, the general Hari Singh Nalwa was killed in Peshawar, and his tomb lies in Peshawar in the fort of Jamrud. The Jamrud fort, as alleged, was built by Hari Singh Nalwa, which is not true because it's a very huge fort. But nobody knows who made this fort before him, but it lies right on the GT road, which is known as Grand Trunk Road, was also made by the Pashtun general Sher Shah Suri in 1500. So its name was changed from Sher Shah Suri Road to GT Road, and during same time the Hari Singh Nalwa came to Peshawar to stop the Pashtuns from invading India and enslaving the Indian races, including the Punjabis. So he came here and he was killed here by a lone archer belonging to a Yusafzai tribe, who killed him while he was riding on a horse. And then he was cremated and burnt, and his ashes still lie here. So today I'm going to show his tomb right here in Peshawar So let's begin the marvelous video.
Singh Nalwa was the chief of army staff of Ranjit Singh, Punjab state. He had many European generals or colonels working under him, but he was the man in charge. He was born in Gujranwala. He was a Majha Sikh and belonged to the Khatri Sikh family, and he was raised by his mother after the death of his father. At the age of 14, he took over the court of Ranjit Singh because his father has served with his father Maha Singh and his grandfather Chirat Singh. After the Sikhs conquered Peshawar on 6th May 1834, he was appointed as administrator or a general of Peshawar region, and that is where he died in 1837. The Sikh Khalsa army was trained by the British and also paid by the British Raj. They had done Amritsar Agreement, which allowed them to fight the Afghans for the British, while the British supported them logistically and financially as well as militarily, because the Amritsar Agreement did not allow them to fight eastward beyond Amritsar. So the conquest of Afghan land started from Amritsar. The first land he conquered was that of Kasur near Lahore in the early 1800s. After Kasur, he took over Sialkot, Multan, Haripur, Kashmir, and then ultimately Peshawar, which was the end of the Sikh Empire. So he died on the 30th April of 1837 at the Battle of Jamrud Fort, just 3 years after the conquest of Peshawar. So Sikhs only remained on control of Peshawar for 3 years, and that also by allowing the son of the King Dost Muhammad Khan Durrani or Abdali, whose name was Prince Sultan Muhammad Khan. So King Dost Muhammad Khan was not happy with this situation by losing Peshawar, the land of Pashtuns. So he, along with his 5 sons, including the famous general Muhammad Akbar Khan Abdali, came to wrestle the Jamrud Fort and Peshawar from the Sikhs. And Singh Nalwa was killed by Prince Akbar Khan in the Battle of Jamrud. So the grave and the tomb of Singh is in Peshawar at Jamrud Fort. As you can see on the map, Peshawar is in Pakhtunkhwa province. And in Peshawar, Jamrud is the main area where this tomb or samadhi of Singh Nalwa is found. Singh, Sikh Khatri and from Majha family, was known for his bravery and for his military genius in fighting the war. The Haripur town is also named after him. Here is the aerial view of the Jamrud Fort, which is right next to the Shershah Suri Road or the Grand Trunk Road, and right next to the famous landmark of Khyber Pass, which was made in the 1960s. When Singh came here, he built the fort with mud, but that was a small fort he made on top of an old fort which already existed before him. And that old fort was on top of a mound. Later on, the British made the fort more solid with their later on constructions before the World War I, because they used it for military purpose. The Khyber Pass is shown on the banknotes of Pakistan and it's very famous. It's right on the Sher Shah Suri Road or the Grand Trunk Road, which extends from Kabul right up to Calcutta and the Arabian Sea in Bangladesh. So this joins the whole Indian subcontinent in 3,000 kilometer big road. And this road was made in 1500 AD by the Pashtun king Sher Shah Suri, who was a Yusafzai Pashtun. This road marks the spread of the rule of the Afghans, Muslims over Indian subcontinent that occupied Afghanistan, Pakistan, India and Bangladesh region. The rule of Afghans over Indian subcontinent ended in 1857 when the British took over. But the rule of Durrani Pashtun Empire continued over Afghanistan from 1857 to right up to 1980s until the Taliban broke it apart. The present Jamrud fort is in dilapidated condition and need of repair, and it should be converted to a museum so that people should understand the history of this region. The fort was actually used by the Pakistan Defence Forces, the Pakistan Army, Punjab Regiment and many regiments occupied this place even recently. And to visit this fort you need a permission from the Pakistan military, although there are talks to convert it into museum after the merger of the tribal districts with Pakhtunkhwa province. If it is converted to a museum, it would be great interest to the local Pashtuns and to the Punjabi Sikhs from all over the world because of the great love they attach with Hari Singh Nalwa, their chief of army staff of Ranjit Singh estate in Punjab. Presently, the fort does not belong to the Pakhtunkhwa government but to the military, who still has a hold over it. This is the topmost area of the fort where the Hari Singh Nalwa used to stay. And these are exclusive pictures I have taken in this video of this fort. As you can see, this is the internal part of the fort which was built by Hari Singh Nalwa, although a fort also existed before him. Before 1837 or 1834 there was a fort over at this place belonging to the Afghans. So he basically repaired it and put it in his use. This is the living quarters on the topmost or the innermost area, which can be seen from far away. This is the room where Hari Singh Nalwa breathed his last, and he would see from this top room the hills around, and he could see far area, any enemy approaching. The Hindu Kush mountains surround this area, and they are known Hindu Kush because the Muslims from Afghanistan came and spread Islam in the Indian subcontinent. So that's why these mountains are known as Hindu Kush, the elimination of the Hindu religion. And Hari Singh Nalwa was a Hindu Sikh, so he wanted to preserve their religion under the direction of Sikh Khalsa and to stop the Muslim Afghans from invading Indian subcontinent and ruling over them, although they had ruled over India for 1500 years. On the top of this fort you can see the Peshawar city very easily, and the latest Hyderabad township and the Jamrud area of Peshawar is easily visible. This is the Jamrud Bazaar, which is right now inside the area of Peshawar. The Peshawar is surrounded by these mountains in the form of a valley which open at one side towards the east, going towards Nowshera, which is about half an hour to 1 hour drive from here. Beyond the mountain is the Khyber Pass, which goes to the current Afghanistan country. The top of this building has the flag mast, and the Pakistan flag flies over it currently. This marvelous piece of history should be preserved, and the children and the schools should arrange visits to this place to teach history. This is the room where Singh Nalwa, the chief of army staff of Punjabi army, died, and his last days were spent here. Currently no arrangement exists to repair the dilapidated quarters. The British also used this fort in the World War I, and they actually made some walls and made it bigger, although it was not as big at the time of Singh Nalwa in 1837, but later on many stronger boundary walls were put around it and area was included. The Jamrud railway station is also a few yards from this place, and also the road link and the railway link is nearby, which could be improved for the tourists to come here and see this piece of history for themselves and earn revenue for the Pakhtunkhwa government. The Pakistan military has put up some pictures and some brief historical information was put on military style boards, but they are not sufficient because this facility has to be converted into a full-fledged museum. The current state of the building is very dilapidated, and the roofs are supported by long metallic beams so it doesn't fall over, and one wall of the Singh Nalwa room has already fallen off and exposed, so it is in need of urgent repairs. This is the ashes of General Singh Nalwa, which is found in a tomb or samadhi right outside the wall of the fort, because he died right here. He was coming in from the Peshawar Balaisar fort to help the 600 or so men who were inside the fort under his lieutenant, because they needed help as they were surrounded by the Afghan army of King Dost Muhammad and his 5 sons. This samadhi or tomb is built in an exact spot where he was killed while rushing inside to the fort, because this is situated right next to the door of the fort, the main entrance door. As in the aerial view you can see, this is the exact place where his samadhi or tomb exists, and this is the GT road and the general layout, which you can see from the picture. It's just right inside Peshawar currently and very easy to access for the tourist. This is the famous Khyber Pass right next to it. And in the distance you can see the Jamrud railway.
I hope you enjoyed my marvelous videos, and I hope you subscribe to my Pakhtunkhwa Interesting channel, and I hope to see you soon. So please subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon so you will be able to see my videos again, and I hope to see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.